the Memphis Grizzlies were in Boston this past weekend, getting a big win over the Celtics. Celtics playing on the back end of a back-to-back, but still a good win for Memphis. They've won 9 of their last 10 now. They're sitting at number 2 in the Western Conference. They're top 5 in the league in offensive rating. They're top 5 in defensive rating. Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson are both averaging better than 20 points per game. They've got 6 guys, Rachel, averaging double figures, including Jalen Wells, a second-round pick, and Scottie Pippen Jr., who has become a player with the Grizzlies. You got Jay Huff, Luke Kennard. They're snipers from the perimeter for this team so far. Are you buying the Grizz as a real threat to win the West?
I mean, look, as a real threat to win the West, they could. We didn't expect Dallas to come out and win the West last year. I would say that Dallas is still a real threat to win the West. I would say Oklahoma City is still a real threat to win the West. So I don't know if I'm going to quite put Memphis up there quite yet, but I will say that they have the potential. And one thing that's really impressing me is that this is a team that's been so injured, right, the last few years. I mean, it's been ridiculous if you look at their man games lost to injury, those kinds of stats. And they have made such a concerted effort to play the guys they have at not minimum minutes, but just incredibly low minutes. No one on that team is averaging more than 30. Most of them are 28 or lower. And it's really an approach that kind of circles back to when Ja Morant said, oh, I'm not going to try to dunk anymore. And then, of course, 3 days later, he pulls off one of the most spectacular dunks of the season.
Insane.
But his larger point was, I'm not going to try to dunk anymore in a way to put on a show or stuff it over someone and make my name by, posterizing someone. He's not doing that anymore. And you can see it. As many as he does still that are pretty amazing. He passes up a lot these days. You can kind of see it in his eyes. Where, oh, okay, never mind. Where he does obviously get the score, but in a different way. And that is all part of trying to stay healthier. And with the focus on that, with the fact that they've been able to boost the rotation with other guys that can keep their big guys off the floor for so many minutes and stay more healthy, I think that has been the winning formula there. They have great coaching. And I'm really interested to see what this team can do. They're so fun. Ja Morant is still one of the most fun players in the NBA. And again, this gets back to my Denver conversation. You know how much it cost them to get Scottie Pippen Jr.? Nothing, Chris. It cost them nothing. So it is possible to find these kinds of guys. And when I see front offices sort of saying year after year, the roster's the rosters. This is what we can do. This is what we could find. It's complicated in today's NBA. It is, but there are still contracts out there and players out there to be had. And that's what this team has really done so impressively.
Yeah, Zach Kleiman and that front office has far more hits than misses over the last few years when it comes to these draft picks, these guys they grab off the basketball scrap heap. Remember Jay Huff,
Sure.
Every team in the league could have had Jay Huff, and now he's shooting 40+% from 3 for this team. I'm kind of with you on, I'm not so sure about Memphis as a contender. And I sort of like, they're almost like the Cleveland of the West. And I don't say that insultingly, because Cleveland is.
I think you just insulted 2 cities right there.
I don't know, but I'm sort of talking about roster makeup and how they're winning games. Like right now, Memphis is winning games with a lot of unlikely guys stepping up and making big plays. Right, like they're getting it done, both ends of the floor. But some of the cause for concern, chief among them, are the 3-point shooting. And that, to me, was a red flag for Memphis coming into this season and remains a question mark at this point. Right now, they're 17th in the NBA in 3-point shooting percentage. That's with them being off to this fantastic start. You've got Desmond Bane, who I thought would be a more reliable 3-point shooter, shooting 32% from 3. Ja Morant, right around 30% from 3. They're kind of being propped up by guys like Pippen and guys like Jay Huff, who are shooting great from beyond the 3-point line. But I wonder when they get into the playoffs, do they have enough 3-point shooting? Because they're going to have to go up against a lot of teams that are pretty high level 3-point scorers. And how many of these guys that are playing right now are going to be reliable in a postseason series against a battle-tested team, right? We know Morant will be. He's a great player. Jaren Jackson will be. I think Desmond Bane will come around.
Yes.
He's a really good player. But some of the other guys we're looking at off their bench, like Scottie Pippen Jr. is a great story. Can he be a quality backup point guard in playoff games? Jay Huff, kind of same sort of question I have for him. They got Marcus Smart. I think Marcus coming off the bench is great for them. That's another
and
versatile,
finally healthy. That's another guy finally healthy.
Finally healthy,
look,
giving them. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just going to say, it's extremely, you and I have been covering the league for so long. Almost never can I think of a time where a team hasn't really made it deep in the playoffs and suddenly goes and wins a title or even is in the finals. It takes those steps. We talk about it every year, all the time, right? So do I expect the Memphis Grizzlies to win the NBA title this year? I do not. Do I expect to see them in the finals? I do not expect that. No, I mean, they could possibly, but it's not the thing I expect. Do I expect them to go deeper possibly than this group has ever had? Yes. Do I think that they have the potential, even with the 3-point percentages that you're talking about, to still beat a lot of teams? I was just looking up right now because I wanted to make sure as we spoke, as recording this, it was still true. The Memphis Grizzlies are leading the NBA in points per game. And the whole thing about shooting percentages, hey, the math, 3 is more than 2. Well, 3 is more than 2 in the chase in the goal to get more points than your opponent. If you're accomplishing that, even with your 3-point percentage being in the middle to, bottom half of the league, then it's okay. The name of the game is to get the most points. And obviously, when you get to the playoffs, when you get deeper and more competitive situations, that 3-point percentage, those numbers, how they're playing, how their younger players adapt to more challenging coverage, that kind of thing is going to be a factor. But I think it'll be a factor in a real learning and positive playoff experience for them. And that's a step that this team needs to take. And I think they're going to take that step, even if they don't skip a bunch of steps and go all the way.
So they've got Jay Huff at 41% from three, Luke Kennard at 40% from three. Those are the two, main rotation guys that are shooting 40% from above. Going down the list, you get down to like kind of more of their core guys. Jaren Jackson, 35%. Scottie Pippen Jr., 33%. Marcus Smart, 32.5%. Desmond Bane, 32%. John Morant, 30%. Brandon Clark, 6.3%. That's not good.
Yeah.
So these numbers
it's just not nice, Chris. You don't got to talk. You don't air him out that way.
It wasn't intentional. I didn't have it written down. Like, let's put it out there. Brandon Clark shooting 6%. It's tough to win in today's NBA like that, where we talk about this all the time, but the 3-point numbers are astronomical. Teams are, Boston, more than half of Boston's shot attempts are from 3-point range.
I know, it's insane.
High 40s for some other teams. It's just tough to win that way. So I think they've got a formula to finish in the top 3 in the regular season. I just need to see it in the postseason before I believe. I need to see these guys that we're talking about, these rotation guys that have been so good for them this year. And like, I'm looking at their minutes played, like you said, everybody under 30, which is incredible. Desmond Bane leads in minutes per game at 28.3. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 guys at around 20 minutes per game. It's crazy. And then, they're playing a whole bunch of guys, a whole bunch of different minutes, but it's a shooter's league now. And I just wonder kind of what's going to be the long-term future of that team if they can't get enough perimeter shooting.